There's Greg Strug. Okay, I think we have everyone who said that we were going to be here tonight.
Hey, Jim, Greg Strode.
Hello, Greg. I think you got the meeting for tonight.
Okay. Let me know if, well, we have quorum enough here.
We do have quorum. We just need 4, so we actually do have quorum. We can call to order, and then I can take the roll.
All right. It's 6:03 p.m. on November 11th, 2020. Calling to order the Technology Commission for the City of Franklin. And if we can go through the roll call.
Okay, Vice Chair Greg Strug.
Present.
Alderman Dan Mayer.
Present.
Dale Webler is excused. Laura Galusha.
Present.
James Rayberger.
Present.
Rajiv Sarana.
Present.
John Farney.
Present.
Jaspreet Kaur.
Present.
And myself.
All right. And we do have a new member. James, do you go by Jim or Rayberger? Rayberger? Is that it?
Well, you got that. You pronounced that pretty good.
Okay. So we normally would introduce ourselves, but it's a little bit awkward. I guess maybe you can give us a little bit of a background, and we can quick go around and say who we are.
Thanks.
So you want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm James Rayberger. I'm the new kid on the block here. I've been a resident of the city of Franklin for about 25, 30 years. I'm a retired engineering executive. I spent the last 20 some years at Zebra Technologies in Lincolnshire, Illinois. And there I held various director level positions. Some of those being director engineering services, director program management, director strategic planning, and director of product security. I also served on our global information security committee and reported directly to the chief executive officer and the board of directors. So that's it in a nutshell.
Well, welcome and thank you for volunteering to help your city. I'll go next since I have the floor for the moment, and I'm just go around, I guess. And maybe Jim, you could call each role member so we don't step on each other as we go through this after I go. So my name is Greg Stroig. I am a resident of the city of Franklin since 1993. Prior to that, lived on the southwest side of Milwaukee. And I lead a couple of divisions of Fujifilm Medical Systems. So we make hardware and software for the hospital industry primarily. And the group that I lead, groups that I lead are focused on image and clinical content management for patient care. And that would be like MRIs, X-rays, videos of people walking or speaking in speech therapy, that sort of thing. I've been on the commission since Lord knows when, 1999, 2000, something like that. A long time. So, Jim?
Alderman Mayer.
Hi, James. Nice to meet you. My name is Dan Mayer. I'm the District 2 Alderman in Franklin. I'm a lifelong resident of Franklin. I'm also the Cut A Fire Chief, and that's my dog you hear whining in the background right now at the moment. But I've been on the commission, on the Technology Commission since I was elected mayor. I'm in my third term since I was elected alderman. I'm in my third term as alderman. and I'm trying to keep my dog quiet over here, so bear with me. And that probably about does it. A District 2 Alderman, Fire Chief, City of Cudahy, and that's it.
Laura Galusha?
Hi, welcome, James. My name is Laura Galusha. I've been on the Technology Commission for about 17 years now. I am the IT supervisor at a company down by the airport called Associated Bag, BAG, not to be confused with bank. We sell bags, packaging materials, janitorial supplies, things like that. And in my role there, I just oversee the setup and support and administration of all of our servers and client computers and anything that's any type of IT device, basically. So I think that's a pretty quick summary of that.
Rajiv Sarada?
Welcome, James. My name is Rajiv, and I've been resident of Franklin since 2003. I run my own business and consulting, primarily focused onto the ERP and supply chain. Basically, my role is global operations strategy, innovation and intellectual capital development, architecting and designing new products. So basically, it's a product as well as the consulting. And I have been running this from last 20 years. So. And also we've been partnered with SAP, Oracle, and Microsoft. So,
John
Welcome.
Farney?
Hi, James. My name is John Farney. I've been a member of the Technology Commission for about 4 years. In January, I'll be a 10-year resident of Franklin, and I work in IT cybersecurity for Caterpillar, focusing on security engineering and data analytics.
Jaspreet Kaur?
Hi, my name is Jaspreet Kaur. I go by Jazz. I've been on the commission about 4 years as well. I work at Ellsworth Adhesives. We're a global manufacturer and distributor of adhesive products, and I am their marketing and digital experience manager. I've been living in Franklin most of my adolescent and adult life and raising a family here as well.
And I am Jim Metelsky. I'm the Director of IT for the City of Franklin, UWM graduate from Lubar School of Graduate Management. I have worked over at Saputo, both in network engineering and architecture and IT management, which was the 7th largest dairy. Prior to that, I've also turned around and worked at US Bank and also the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, and Tucker Anthony, Cleary Gall, Rhineland, and McDivitt, which is a mid-cap stock brokerage company. And prior to that, Deluxe Data Systems, which is now actually Fizz. So I have a background primarily in system engineering and infrastructure. Moving on the agenda for
All
today.
right, yes. Next item on the agenda is citizen comment period. I don't know that we have any citizens online other than the commission members.
And there are no people actually here at City Hall tonight either.
Thank you. You look very lonely there. And next we have the review and approval of the August 26th, 2020 meeting minutes, which is in the packet Lisa sent on Monday.
To approve,
Who motioned, please?
Dan Mayer.
Alderman Mayor, motion to approve the meeting minutes. Do we have a second?
This is John Farney. I'll second that.
Thank you, John. All those in favor say aye.
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 hi.
Any opposed? All right, we'll go with those meeting minutes. Next item on the agenda is the IT budget, which is a big issue for tonight.
Okay, let's see if I'll share my screen. And there goes the mouse again. There we go. Hopefully everyone can see that.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, tonight, as we have done in previous years, I'd like to discuss a little bit about the upcoming 2021 budget. It was a challenging year, just like we have encountered in other previous years on this. At the beginning of the budgetary process, there was estimated at the time to be approximately a $1 million budgetary shortfall. Peggy Stino, well, is the Director of Administration, has led us wonderfully through that entire budgetary process through it and did an absolutely fantastic job of basically balancing a budget that was probably a very tough one to do. So major kudos on just an absolutely fantastic accomplishment. All departments were asked to limit and control budgetary spending as much as possible. We knew pretty much that the over economic look for this year and probably going into next year was going to be fairly uncertain because of the impact of COVID-19. We saw statewide unemployment dramatically go up, not as much as some states, but it is still way higher than it used to be due to the increases of the pandemic. And for the short term, there were many federal and state grants that were available to help address COVID-19 issues. However, long-term funding and external available funding at this point is unknown. We won't know until they turn around and actually pass legislation on any new potential funding that may be available. Due to the economic uncertainty and availability of resources, all the managers were pretty much asked to look at their budgets, cut where there was actually ability to cut, and control costs as much as humanly possible. $38,000 that we actually had in previous IT budgets, we were able to turn around and transfers to the budgets within other departments. And then future budgets obviously may change as economic outlooks become a little more clear. We have an IT limited spending budget for this year, which was proposed basically due to needing to put a lot of attention on the projects that we are currently working on. Because of COVID and the needs for the pandemic, we're off to a fairly slow start on a lot of our 2020 budgets or projects. So therefore, some of the stuff that we were working on in 2020 is going to get moved into 2021. So the project list for 2021 is going to be just a few projects in addition to what we're actually currently working on. The focus is to basically complete what is currently approved and funded projects, work on funded projects over starting brand new projects. We are also asked to focus on laddering expenses over a 5-year period. So major spending does not have to be incurred in 1 year. I saw that my first year coming on board where we did have a large spending because a lot of infrastructure needed to be done. And that was a year of considerable expense. But we'd like to turn around and make spending as predictable as possible. And then our major 2021 IT projects that we're working on. Right now we have the BSNA Community Development Project. That is going to be our replacement for Govern. It's a very large project. We're going through the planning and analysis phases right now with an anticipated beginning of phase 1 of the implementation in Q1 of 2021. We have a Microsoft Exchange project that we need to get done because of 4 elections this year, 2 of them being quite major. We did not expect that we would be hitting a lot of email as part of that election process. So we just could not schedule at this point an Exchange upgrade because of all the demands right now on email. And then, of course, always the continuing City of Franklin website upgrades, and then looking at maybe making some administrative changes as well for that. We only really have 4 major items that we have in capital for this year. The total is about $44,000. We have our traditional unexpected hardware and software that was actually increased a little bit for next year up to $5,000 for each one of those. And then we also are going to be extending out our VMware environment and 3-part warranty extensions for $21,500. A lot of it is coming off of warranty. It was supposed to be replaced in 2021, but yet we're extending it out for yet another year and carrying that over. And then at City Hall, we do know we're going to need more disk space. So we're planning on an 8 terabyte disk expansion on the 3-part unit here. If we look into comparison from what we've done in previous years, our spending is lower overall than what we're predicting, but it's not dramatically lower on it. In 2015, there wasn't a lot of spending because they were waiting for the new IT director to come on board to help them make decisions. So they didn't do a lot of projects in 2015. 2016 was my first year here, where we put significant investments both into the infrastructure, both computing and network. And that carried on into 2017 as well. Into 2018. The biggest one we actually had was 2019, where we did some additional warranty extensions on the equipment that we bought in 2016 because it was a 3-year. And we also did some major upgrading of the disk storage as well within that year. And we also were working on firewalls that we swapped out. 2020 this year was a fairly modest year, but it was pretty much in alignment. As you can see, we're down for 2021, but our goal again is to focus on what we're doing right now and try to defer any future expenses more to a laddered expense type of system. When we look at laddering infrastructures, in 2021, the VMware farm was originally intended to be upgraded. It was installed originally in 2016 and is nearing end of life of about 5 years. However, to lower expenses and also reduce IT resource drains, this cost and future infrastructure costs is being deferred by 1 year. So I'm taking my replacement schedule and I'm focusing it out 1 year, and we're just extending the warranty. Expenses will be primarily extending existing SAN capacity and adding 1 more year to computer and storage warranties. And time and attention will be devoted to ERP project migration and eliminating govern instead of replacing currently stable infrastructure. When we look at what we might be coming up with, at least from a planning stage, these numbers are rough estimations. These are not hard and fast numbers, but it's just a pretty much what we spent in previous years and understanding what it might possibly be with a little bit of a cost increase for it. We know for in 2022, the VMware servers being deployed out in all two main locations is going to be about $82,500. So that would be about 4 servers fully decked out to handle far more compute and memory requirements than we're currently at right now. We also be looking at moving over to Microsoft Data Center licensing, 2020 version 2019 Windows Data Center server, or potentially they may have a new release by that time, and we would then go on the new release that would allow us to move on to the current version of Windows and any previous version of Windows as well and be fully licensed. In 2023, we know our Palo Alto firewalls are going to be about 5 years old, which is about the anticipated lifespan of them. If we do any changes to our WAN network architecture, that if we decide to put in fiber or change offices, consolidate offices, that may change that number. So that one is a little bit more of a rougher number. In 2024, we know that the tape libraries that we're putting in place are going to be coming end of life. So that'd be approximately $18,000. And the Aruba access points, which is running 802.11 AC, there's new WAN technologies already out in place. So by 2024, it'll probably be 2 versions behind the latest WAN technology. And that would be about $19,000. At that time, we know the SAN is going to be about 8 years old. We have an anticipation of using it a full 10 years. But if it starts running into performance issues, we may need to turn around and replace it before that time. And then in 2025, the core switches should probably be replaced along with all the IDF switches at City Hall and the police department. They would have been installed in 2016, so they would have been about 10 years old at the time. Even though they do have a warranty for life on them, most likely within a 10-year lifespan, they would put end of usage. In 2026, the SAN, we know, is going to be probably completely and totally obsolete. Hopefully by that time, we have probably maximized the storage capacity that is able to have. And then we may decide to go to completely different architecture instead of a traditional fiber channel SAN that we have today. We may want to turn around and go to different type of computing models, memory-based computing models, or even a combination of on-site storage and cloud storage. If we look at what potential applications might be on there in addition to infrastructure, in 2022, I can probably see us wanting to look, depending on how the pandemic pans out, if it's going to be around for a year, or if it's going to go along even farther than that. We may want to look at Citrix or some remote access systems. Most of the remote access that we have today was through laptops, directly dialing into the Palo Alto VPN. But we may want to turn around and allow more apps to run thin instead of thick, loaded on the desktops, and make that hence available without having to dial into the network. We may need an SIEM. We do know that is a CGIS requirement for the police department, where we consolidate all log files and then turn around and start looking for security events inside of it. That may potentially be a cloud service instead of an actual hardware device that would be stored on site. 2023, we probably would want to be looking at some form of a document management with OCR scanning. That's been on the want list for a while, but we decided that it was a better idea to get your ERP in place first instead of putting the cart before the horse. So determine what your ERP is going to actually be, and then which we now know is BSNA, and BSNA may actually start driving what document management systems they would and would not support. Where that would be probably a 2022 or 2023 project. And then the Avaya PBX and any VoIP applications that we have on them. The PBX at that point would be around 7 years old, and we may want to turn around and look at that entire platform and what we're doing with it, if it needs to be extended, or if we may want to go potentially a different route. When we look at the operational budget for 2021, the biggest issue that we're having right now is because of COVID and both issues with actually working in an environment that is considered absolutely essential, a frontline position, so we never close. COVID means that you still come to work no matter how bad the pandemic actually gets. And there's also issues of people wanting to turn around and work in a police department at this time. We tried going out there and looking for new talent and got a pool and did a lot of recruiting. However, we did not find the right amount of people. And when we did turn around and look at our top contestants, all of them started dropping out because of COVID related issues, or they were recalled back to their previous job. So we really had a hard time during this pandemic finding the right IT talent. It's probably not the best time to turn around and be doing recruiting right about now. I did have an open IT position where the person at City Hall was let go on 5/20. And the intent was to fill that position that sometimes towards the middle of November. However, with recruiting, we know that is not going to happen. So we're going back to the previous model of having an on-site HBS consultant, where they will do the recruiting and the hiring of that person, and we'll be looking at bringing that person in place come January, and that'll be a full-time position. Ann Woodruff, who is the IT consultant who works for Heartland, working out at the police department. She has been an absolute rock star. She has done such an exceptional job. I'm so pleased with her. The PD has requested that we retain her and keep her on board for the long term as well. So that kind of moved us back from the process of trying to turn around and bringing all of the employees in-house instead of being consultants, because we had a good, solid working relationship with a person that really was working out. Decided it would be a good idea just to remain on the consulting staffing that we've been doing for the last 10 years at this point. When we look at equipment maintenance in the operational spending budget, we do know that the Palo Alto firewalls are off their 3-year contract that was previously put into capital. So that's now an annual support contract that has to be incurred each and every single year. Avaya phone system costs are increasing due to the number of PBXs being supported. We now have a PBX or minor PBX at City Hall, the library, and at the police department. Zoom licenses is also an expense that we haven't had, as we had to do teleconferencing for the pandemic. We're currently with Zoom right now, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to stay on that platform. We may want to look at Microsoft Teams or WebEx. It's working so far, as we're doing it with this conference call tonight. But it's been successful, but we also realize that we may want to turn around and look at other options as well. When we look at the sundry contractors expense, we do have SKC, who's our primary provider for all of our phone expertise. With the pandemic, you have a lot of issues with phones and how to extend phones out and do all different things with your phones and with your auto attendants. That was a growing expense due to COVID, and we anticipate that's probably going to continue. Within the data communications expense, Spectrum Internet Links, we increased that bandwidth, if you remember, back in March, as part of an increase expecting of people working from home, and also things going more and more online, that we would definitely need more bandwidth at all offices. So we therefore increased all of the bandwidth in every single one of the City of Franklin offices. We also are looking at doing potentially SD-WAN, either with DSL or a wireless backup into our existing Spectrum coax right now. That may be a nice short-term interim that would, if Spectrum is down, give you the ability to turn around and run on an alternative link. That way, it gives us some level of redundancy until we can turn around and come up with a long-term solution. And for long-term, fiber may still be an installation option at this point. We did have an Everstream proposal that we looked at last time, but it was deemed in the budgetary process of being overly expensive and potentially heavy on operational costs, and there was a preference for capital costs. So right now we're looking at alternative options right now, and maybe tying that to other potential future projects. So our total operation budget, including salaries for this year, is $535,079, and there's also that cost transfer of $38,000 in there as well. When we look at it in a bar chart, it's again higher than it was in 2016, but we have made significant changes to infrastructure and enhanced security over it. So we are a little bit lower than we were in 2021. It should be noted that, 2019. It should be noted that in this chart, we're looking at actual spending, what we did over at the end of the year. And for the cost for 2021, because the year isn't done yet, so you can't have an actualized cost if the year isn't over yet. Those two, 2020 and 2021, are budgeted numbers instead of actualized numbers. I am expecting our cost for 2020 to be considerably lower because we did let the Heartland employee go in May. That was money that we were not spending. So between May and now, we have not had the Heartland staffing cost for that personnel. So I do expect that we would be having a good amount of cost savings within 2020, and we'll probably be well under the budgeted number. Are there any questions concerning the budgets for next year?
Yes, this is Jim. I have a question. When I was looking over your budget, I didn't see anything specifically around data backup expenses. So do we have a backup plan, or do we back up in the cloud? What do we do?
We actually traditionally back up to tape, which, strange enough, with what you actually have going on with a lot of ransomware, we are constrained right now on bandwidth, that because of bandwidth considerations, particularly in upload speeds, it isn't realistic at this point to do all of our data backup in the clouds. So we do it a very traditional way of we go disk to disk and then disk to tape. So we do disk to disk backups, and then at night, then goes about starting at 3 a.m., goes disk to tape, and then the tapes are then stored offsite.
Okay, so it's still the traditional approach.
Very traditional, yes. On the other hand, If you do have to restore, we do have the ability to restore to a specific month of files, going right back from tape. So that actually does work as a benefit for ransomware.
So in the event we got hit with ransomware, at most we would lose 1 day of transactions?
Correct. Any other questions? Okay, then I'll proceed forward
Okay.
to the next
Yep.
item.
The next item number 5 on our agenda, is to discuss the audio and visual and communication systems.
I like to always bring back the good old wedding cake model on it, because everyone thinks about especially this time of year with the great baking challenges for Christmas and such, and all the Thanksgiving food shows. There's always someone making a cake and it winds up on the floor. So if you don't build your wedding cake right and do it correctly, yeah, you're going to have a real mess on your hands, and your wedding cake will find its way onto the floor. I think this model, you've seen similar pyramid types of models out there, is very appropriate in at least being able to focus attention, especially when you start creating strategy and then trying to formulate what you're going to do with particular technologies. I always look at a layer of the wedding cake and then try to turn around and determine what we're actually going to be doing within that particular layer. But as we look at it, you have your physical layer, your network cabling, and your general infrastructure. That's what we did a lot of in 2016, of stabilizing our networks. The second layer is actually information management. That can take into anything from document management systems to traditional file storage, some data warehousing, but probably the biggest element in there is SQL and database. That has to be in place before you can turn around and actually have higher level applications. Layer 3 is going to be your core enterprise operational applications. Many organizations, that would be SAP, clearly in there. For us, it's going to be governed in BSNA. Then on the top of that, you would then have your individual departmental applications, of which we have many, particularly both at the PD and the fire department. And then at the very top layer is communication. And it's not only communication within your organization, but it's communication externally outside of your organization. And tied that to as well would be data analytics, where you're trying to turn around and take processed information and process data and then transforming knowledge actually out of that. Historically, the city of Franklin has not made a lot of investments at layer 5, the top tier layer. Constituent communication historically has always been through the City of Franklin website. We still do newsletters that are mailed out on a regular basis for it. Bidirectional communication between constituents, vendors, et cetera, has always been largely through email, and even transfer of documents through email. Prior to the pandemic, video conferencing or live streaming did not exist. Therefore, we had to put it together relatively quickly. Digital recording of meetings has largely been audio only. And for that, only some commissions or committee meeting audio files are regularly posted to the COF website. We do the Common Council, the Plan Commission, and the Quarry monitoring. And currently, we do not have any data analytics systems or data warehousing systems. When we look at communication and sense making, we have to realize the concentration has largely been on layers 1 and 2, plus the security, as these systems were clearly under the authority of IT. Historically, infrastructure has been in very rough shape and required a considerable amount of time, reinvestment, and redesign. Until recently, ERP functions were spread across various business units, with each department almost doing their own thing with ERP. These were primarily supported by the employees and the vendors of these particular departments. A good example would be the RMS system over at the police department. Until core infrastructure was optimized and applications allowed for cross functionality and information exchanges, implementing systems at the top of the wedding cake model was not possible. Again, unless the bottom layers are absolutely solid, you can't do very much at the top. And regulation regarding the retention of communication exchanges presents data preservation issues. Some of these regulations can be fairly unclear at this point and constantly changing. So as statutory law and rules start becoming, and even court cases, a little bit more solid, we may actually start changing our data preservation strategies. And the retention of archives can require massive amounts of storage, particularly video archives. But under COVID, we did get funding grant for a new AV system here in the Common Council chamber that was significantly upgraded. You are seeing me talk on it as we actually speak. We have 3 point tilt and zoom cameras that were installed. 2 are on the back wall and have a 30 times zoom. 1 is in the front of the room and captures people addressing the council. Unlike my camcorder that I always got in the back of the heads. I never really liked that. The original Symmetrix DSP that was installed by Metro Sound with the microphone system, that was entirely replaced. Something to note, the microphone mute and unmute controls the point tilt zoom camera and the camera angles. By unmuting a microphone, the system knows that a person will be talking and the camera knows to focus on that particular area. And staging a speaking cue also allows the cameras to know where to focus next. This then allows the point tilt zoom cameras to allow a sharp cut transition between camera to camera instead of giving a sweeping motion between the cameras. We have a new Sony high definition projector that was installed to replace the old projector. The old projector was moved and actually installed in the hearing room with a projection screen. So you won't see me having to get up and move the mobile one anymore and set up and tear down the room. That's going to be so wonderful. The overflow room audio has also been extended over to the hearing room. So as we have large scale meetings that we, particularly with COVID, can't safely host all in one room, we can now use the hearing room also as another room to extend capacity. This also allows presentations that can be easily performed from either room. Live streaming will be performed on the PC in the Common Council room. Actually, we were changing that as today. They just installed a new audio recorder over there, and we were testing it. And we're actually doing the live streaming from the audio recorder, which was really cool. The goal is to make the live streaming as automatic and simple as possible. And the Zoom sessions can also be initiated from the PC, which is what I am doing right now. And we can record and live stream. It can be done particularly from the Zoom client, or it could also be done from the new audio recorder as well. The goal to live stream is to post it over to social media. When it's posted on social media, it's on their systems. So data storage is performed on the social media site itself. We don't have to store it. And the live streaming also allows the session to be viewed in real time or at any given date afterwards. When we look at teleconferencing, video teleconferencing continues to increase in usage, largely due to the pandemic, making site visits a real challenge. Teleconferencing has been making quorum being obtained a lot easier. We've seen that within the Technology Commission meeting. As not all attendants have to be on site for the meeting. That really helps for people are doing a lot of business traveling. Teleconferencing is currently being used in inspections, and they're doing that for virtual inspections instead of going out to the site. They can actually now do it virtually. Video and audio recording of Zoom can reduce the need for tape or MP3 recorders. Audio bridging services like Vast Conferencing also has the capability today of recording the meeting as well. The quality of the recordings are normally a lot better when you're using a service or an enterprise level recorder than we have off of the little small digital Olympus recorder that you've seen me use in the past. And then we also have purchased 2 Zoom Room Polycom X50 Studio machines. These have been purchased for more of a huddle room video conferencing capability. One is located in the engineering conference room, and one is going to be installed in the inspections conference room. And there's a picture of it with the TC8. The Polycom, we recently used that when we had to do NICE healthcare benefits review for all of our offices. It is small, so it was fairly mobile. That allowed us to take it to multiple offices, and you could set it up really, really quickly and connect it either to a projector or a TV. And then it also has a really nice little Android controller. It looks like just a touchpad, but there actually is a full computer actually inside of that. It has a simplified interface, so it's not as complex as the thick Zoom clients. And that makes it a lot easier for new users to turn around and set up and control meetings. When we look at live stream meetings on social media, we can see it's becoming more and more increasingly popular, particularly here at Franklin. In the course of me doing this now since April, there have been some unexpected usages of the recording. Recently, some video clips of live streaming sessions appeared on Channel 4 and Channel 12 for their 10 o'clock news broadcasts. The media decided to use YouTube video instead of their own recorded media material due to better camera angles and sound than what they were actually getting when they had a person here. The Milwaukee Journal Sentinel published 2 articles that contained PowerPoint presentation material that was on our YouTube video. They included in a picture within their actual news stories. And the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel also was including statements that were made during regular meetings in their online web blog as the meeting was actually happening. So they were doing that actually real time while watching our live stream video. The paper did not have a reporter on site, and they were intending this all through our live feed. And then due to the potential of videos that are posted on social media being used by the mainstream media for media footage, it's important to have it posted, all posted material be the absolute highest quality and professional appearance as possible. One, it's very good just for understanding the content clearly of it, but we also realize, yes, things could be used for alternative purposes. Some of our current challenges as we have today, post-production and post-production editing, due to the need of the systems being automated and as much as possible, recorded and live stream video will have to be, have some features not found in professionally video editing. For example, transitions or scrolling banners, multiple camera angles with multiple headshots, multiple sourced content. We can't include that in our videos. This would actually require a professional cameraman and a professional editor taking the material, but quite often after the fact, editing it using professional auditing tools, and then reposting it back up online again. We realize that a balance has to be reached on what broadcast features we incorporate into our videos. There's just limited time and IT resources that can be devoted for pre and post-production editing. And then we also realize Zoom itself does have some bandwidth restrictions. Zoom has built-in limitation on how much bandwidth can be used by the client for streaming purposes. Out of box, only 720p is possible unless you have the special business licenses. When you do have the special business license, you can get 1080p, but that has to actually be enabled by their tech support, and you have to call them, and they do that on a case-by-case basis. By default, Zoom live streaming has been pretty much restricted to 720p. It also should be said that Zoom doesn't have any capability today for either 2K or 4K video streaming. Users have to also understand the tools, which is extremely important, that users continue, even with Zoom that has a streamlined interface, they have problems setting up Zoom or setting up the hardware for it. It's easy to record meetings in Zoom, but it can be very complex if you were going to live stream from Zoom, putting in all the session keys and all the other information, especially if you have to do it to multiple social media sites. There are also security issues if you're going to gain access to users to stream to a site. This often requires that they have to have full admin permissions to the site that they're streaming to. Meetings are often held during early morning hours or evening hours, and IT support may not be available on site for assistance during the time of the meetings. YouTube and Facebook sites, we quickly created those to turn around and facilitate meetings, especially during the COVID lockdowns. We realized these were done fairly quickly, hence the sites need to be far more polished and professional if we're going to turn around and use them for long-term use. There are 26 Franklin commissions and committees. Recording video footage for all of them would require significant data storage and IT administrative time. And just a few shots from last Common Council meeting, which I believe last time I looked, it was around 440 hits for it, which is actually pretty good. When I took this clip, you can see just how many views that it actually got for the channel for that time period. So we can see just YouTube. Now we do YouTube and Facebook, so this is just one piece of it. That yeah, we do have some pretty good spikes of viewership. So it is obviously something of interest to people. And as we look just down in our data analytics side on the very, very, very far right-hand side, it shows you the counts. So the Common Council session on 11/2, that had 431 hits. And then the Common Council session, which was actually done in two parts because we actually did have a break between the two, was 409 and 250. Planning Commission had 18, but then we after the break, but even that one Planning Commission meeting got 351 off of those. Those are some pretty substantial numbers, particularly for a smaller YouTube site. When we look at where the traffic was actually coming from, where people were turning around and getting it from, Facebook was primarily the largest launch point from it. But interesting enough, it also was from WhatsApp and Google search, change.org and Yahoo search. But the biggest one of WhatsApp, that kind of surprised me. When we also turn around and look at when the sources are coming from actually a search page, they're primarily getting the channel page, but then sometimes they find it on YouTube searches or other direct searches. And that's all we have for that discussion. Are there any questions thus far? Remember, you're on mute. I'm going to go back to Zoom here if I can move my mouse.
Well, we
Come
certainly
on,
have come a long way. This has been an ongoing discussion for 20 years, as long as I've been on the commission, and it's not to the extent that we maybe would like to have with all commissions and committees, but it's certainly vastly different than it was even just 5 years ago. So I guess we've definitely made progress.
And the pandemic, I think, was admittedly so probably the driving focus for it. You had to do it more than anything else. Wasn't optional.
Yep.
But the interesting thing is I am seeing growing interest from it too. It started small and it's definitely growing.
Yeah. I think back in the days of the, government access channels on cable TV, people didn't know how to find those channels, and you're locked to, watching them only on your TV. Now you can take this video with you and look at it later, and it's much more flexible.
And that is true. That the nice thing about when it actually is posted, that it is posted out there, and it then becomes its own archive, so you can view it at your leisure.
Right. Anybody have any questions, comments about the AV systems and technology? Otherwise, we'll move to item number 6 on our agenda, technical issues review.
Yes, I have 2 items for tonight. One is a little bit more of an update on the ProPhoenix 2020 upgrade. Work is currently underway for planning the new Phoenix 2020 RMS and CAD system at the police department. It is expected that the new system will be in place the first week of December. That's if I get all my virtual machines built, with full migration of data and files being performed as part of the conversion. New Windows 2016 virtual machines are being constructed for the migration. In addition, a new SQL 2019 server must be built and available prior to the migration. Once the system has been migrated and fully in place, both the fire department station alerting project, which was are assuming will probably be about the second week of December, and the Milwaukee County Telesystem will be fully implemented. It is expected that all three projects will significantly consume IT resources. However, there should be a significant operational benefit once all of these systems are fully in place. And there's a lot of excitement to watching this actually come to fruition. We also have an ArcGIS upgrade as well. In years past, the software coupling between ESRI, ArcGIS, and EdApp were required because a very specific version of GIS software had to be used in production. With the planned migration from Govern to BSNA, the abandonment of with the planned migration from Govern to BSNA, there will be the abandonment of EditApp. Therefore, ArcGIS can finally be upgraded to the latest version of software. This is a concern as the current version of ArcGIS is on legacy support and soon will not be supported at all by the vendor. We're building a new test and certification server. It has currently been built. The GIS team is in the process of building a new set of servers and updating all the current GIS data maps and layers to the new software version. A new version of ArcGIS Viewer and the applications will be distributed as part of this upgrade. And that is it for the technical review.
That's another good thing to get rid of the edit app. Yeah.
I've been trying since I've been here.
Yeah. All right. Next item on the agenda, if there are no questions or comments, I'll just pause there and ask first.
Okay, on the director's report of operations.
Yeah.
First of all, I'd like to offer a retraction because in some areas I was in error. During the 8/26/2020 Technology Commission meeting, I stated that there were several security concerns that were going unattended to and were not being focused on. I was in error on these statements and would like to offer a retraction. There currently is an enterprise-wide security project. It's an enterprise city-wide project that will be focusing on physical security concerns, not only for the city, but for setting policy and standards throughout the city. For City Hall, over 200,000 plus has been allocated for enhancing physical security and implementing new systems where necessary. As part of the initial project steps, a full security analysis is actually needed. A request for proposal, or RFQ, is being sought by firms specializing in physical security, as recognized that both standards and processes will need to be reevaluated as part of this project. If anyone has any experience with companies that focus primarily on physical security, I would love to have any recommendations. Please send me an email message on that of any vendors who we might or should turn around and be talking to or getting in contact with. Particularly, these companies are within the Metro Milwaukee area. Water utility billing on October 1st, 2020, all water utility billing functions were moved from Govern over to BSNA. All Q4 water utility billing was performed on a new BSNA module. The new software module allows for several key operational advantages. Water utility billing is processed directly in BSNA and tied to the financial ledgers. There's no longer double data entry that has to be performed by the Treasury Department. The generation of water usage statements is significantly faster in that all processing is done server side and instead of being performed on the local workstation as it is in Govern. Previously, it takes 12 plus hours to generate all water utility bills in Govern. The last statement run in BSNA took less than 2 hours to complete. And the merging of duplicate records and entries and changing the rates in BSNA is also dramatically simplified. Last but not least, water utility bills are planned to be made available online through the BSNA portal. It is planned that payments can be made and scheduled via checks and checking account withdrawals. So soon you can actually turn around and actually see your water bill actually on BSNA online, which we will be linking through the City of Franklin website.
And when is that expected to go live? The water bills?
I have to check with it. I'd like to say within 30 days, but I have to see where the project plan is with the rest of the BSNA project as well, because those are tied together.
I just happened to see a social media post, someone in Franklin asking about why they can't do that. And it's just very timely.
We're working our way through it.
We're
and
working on
it's definitely going to happen.
Okay. Any other items to report, Jim?
That
Nothing?
would be it.
Okay. So we have under our future agenda items the ever continued strategic technology plan, which we've been meaning to revisit and revise and refresh. And then NIST aligned policies, which I guess we have a new member who's got security in his background as well, so that might be helpful. But any other agenda items that we should contemplate putting on the future agenda? No. Okay. This meeting was a combination of several months of meetings. So our next meeting date is currently scheduled for Wednesday, January 27th. Well beyond the holidays, and hopefully we'll see a vaccine maybe by that time for some people. But otherwise, I'm sure we'll still be doing it this way. And the last item is our adjournment. So we'll ask our new member if he would like to make a motion for adjournment.
Well, thank you for the honor. I would like to make a motion of adjournment.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's the Alderman seconds. And we'll say the motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone. It was mostly an informational report tonight. But I'm sure we'll have other things we need to contemplate in the future. Just for our new member, all communications should be done directly to Lisa or to Jim directly without copying other people, because it violates open meeting laws. So if there are information that you can share, like the physical security item, and I'm not putting this on you, but if that should come up, or any other communication, you just want to communicate back directly to the person who requested it and not CC everybody on the commission. That's it. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Everyone
Thank
have
you.
happy
Thanksgiving.
holidays.
Thank
Stay
Good
you.
night,
safe.
everyone.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
See you next year.
Yep.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
On mouse. Recording.